Have you ever felt like you are on a treadmill? You run faster and faster, but you never seem to get ahead. You work longer hours. You take on extra projects. Yet, at the end of the month, your bank account looks stubbornly the same. This feeling is not just in your head. It is a shared experience for millions of people. It is the result of a system designed not by accident, but with purpose. This system connects the money in your pocket, the debt on your home, the endless hours you spend at your job. It is a complex machine with many moving parts all working together. To understand why you are always working, you must first understand what money is and where it comes from. Most of us think of money as the coins, paper notes issued by the government. But this physical cash makes up only a tiny fraction of the total money supply. The vast majority of money in our modern economy is digital. It exists as numbers in computer systems, at commercial banks. This digital money is not printed by a government mint. It is created out of thin air every time a bank makes a loan. This is the foundational and often misunderstood principle of our financial system. When you go to a bank to get a loan for a car, for a house, the bank does not lend you money that other people have deposited. Debt is now a central feature of modern life. Debt touches education, housing, and everyday expenses. It is no longer just for emergencies. It is no longer just for large, one-time purchases. It has become a necessity for navigating basic life stages. Young people take on massive student loans. They do it simply to get the education required for a decent job. Families go into debt to buy a home. Buying a home is often their only way to build wealth. People use credit cards to cover gaps between paychecks. People use credit cards to pay for unexpected medical bills. We have normalized a system where we must borrow from our future selves just to get by in the present. This normalization of debt serves a critical function in the system. It creates a disciplined and compliant workforce. A person with a large mortgage, a person with a car payment, a person with student loan debt. Inflation is the slow and steady increase in the price of goods and services over time. Central bankers often tell us that a small amount of inflation is healthy for the economy, around 2%. They argue it encourages spending and investment. But for a regular worker, inflation acts like a silent pickpocket. It erodes the value of your money. The dollar you earned last year buys less this year. If your wages do not increase at the same rate as inflation, you are effectively getting a pay cut. You are working just as hard, but your labor buys you less food, less gas, less housing. This constant erosion of purchasing power creates another powerful incentive to keep working and to constantly fight for more income. You are not just working to pay off your debts, you are also running to stay ahead of rising prices. This race is one that many workers are losing. For decades in many Western countries, the real value of wages for the bottom half of the population has stagnated or declined. Meanwhile, the cost of essential goods like housing, healthcare, education. This widening gap means more stress, more debt, more working hours, just to maintain the same standard of living. Where does this inflation come from? It is directly linked to the system of money creation we discussed earlier. When banks create large amounts of new money through lending, it increases the total amount of money chasing the same amount of goods and services. This can push prices up. Governments can also contribute to this by engaging in massive spending programs, funded by borrowing from the central bank. While this can stimulate the economy in the short term, it also injects more money into the system, potentially devaluing the currency and driving up prices for everyone. The cruel irony of inflation is that while it hurts savers workers on fixed incomes, it benefits those who are heavily in debt, those who own assets. If you have a large fixed-rate mortgage, inflation erodes the real value of your debt over time. More importantly, inflation drives up the nominal price of assets like real estate, stocks, corporate profits. Since the wealthiest people own the vast majority of these assets, inflation acts as a massive, stealthy mechanism for transferring wealth upward. It punishes those who hold cash and rewards those who own capital, widening the gap between the rich and the poor. You have taken on debt, and you are running to keep up with inflation. The final piece of the puzzle is your wage. For the system to work, wages must be kept under control. If wages rose too quickly, people might pay off their debts, save money, and gain the freedom to work less. That would disrupt the machine. Forces are aligned to suppress wage growth and keep pressure to work constant. This is the wage squeeze. Deliberate, not accidental. One powerful tool, weakening organized labor. For decades, corporate and political campaigns have dismantled union power. Laws now make it harder to organize, easier to fire striking workers, and more difficult to bargain collectively. As union membership fell, workers' leverage to claim a fair share fell too. Without a collective voice, workers negotiate alone against powerful corporations, an unequal contest that favors the employer. Another key factor, globalization and the threat of offshoring. Corporations can move production where labor is cheapest and regulations weakest. That creates a race to the bottom, pitting workers in one country against another. Even the threat of moving a factory to Mexico or China is often enough to force lower pay and worse conditions. Global labor arbitrage gives corporations leverage to keep a lid on wages in rich countries. Finally, policy prioritizes capital over labor. Tax codes favor investment income over wages. Central banks focus on keeping inflation low, benefiting creditors rather than achieving full employment, benefiting workers. The rise of the gig economy and contract work has eroded job security, classifying millions as independent contractors with few rights. All these factors let corporate profits and stock prices soar, while worker wages remain stubbornly stagnant. Corporations are not passive players in this system. They are active architects. Through immense financial power and political power, they work tirelessly to shape the rules of the economy in their favor. This is not a secret. It's a well-documented process that happens in the open. Lobbying, campaign contributions, funding of think tanks. The goal is to create a legal and regulatory environment that maximizes profit and minimizes obligations to workers and the public. This playbook ensures the system funnels wealth and power upward. Lobbying is the most direct method. Large corporations and industry associations spend billions every year to influence lawmakers. They employ armies of lobbyists. Lobbyists swarm Capitol buildings, building relationships and pushing for specific language in legislation. They lobby for lower corporate tax rates. They lobby for deregulation of their industries. They lobby for trade deals that benefit their global supply chains. They also lobby against policies that would empower workers, increases in the minimum wage, stronger workplace safety rules, laws that make it easier to form unions. The result is a legal framework tilted heavily in favor of corporate interests. Beyond direct lobbying, corporations shape public opinion and political discourse. They fund think tanks that produce research supporting their policy goals, giving their arguments a veneer of academic credibility. They finance massive public relations campaigns to sell their agenda to the public. Phrases like job creators and economic growth. They make large campaign contributions to politicians from both major parties, ensuring access and influence regardless of who is in power. This creates a political class often more responsive to corporate donors than to voters. This influence extends into the workplace itself, creating a culture that demands total commitment. Modern corporate culture often promotes the idea that a job should be a passion, a calling, a central part of one's identity. Employees are encouraged to be team players, to be available 24/7, and to go above and beyond their job description. This is a subtle but powerful form of control. It frames long hours not as exploitation, but as a sign of personal virtue and dedication. It blurs the line between work and life, ensuring the corporation gets the maximum possible output from its human resources. The system does not only operate in the private sector, it involves a complex dance between governments and corporations. When economies falter, often due to the collapse of a debt-fueled bubble, governments are called upon to step in. They are told they must save the system. This usually involves borrowing massive amounts of money to bail out banks, to bail out large corporations deemed too big to fail. This public borrowing adds another layer to the machine, one that ultimately places more burdens on the shoulders of ordinary working people. These government bailouts socialize the losses while keeping the profits private. When banks make risky bets and win, the profits go to their executives, the profits go to their shareholders. When they lose, the government steps in with public money to cover the losses, preventing the system's collapse. This creates a moral hazard, encouraging even riskier behavior in the future. This system of interconnected pressures can feel overwhelming and inescapable. It is designed to feel that way. However, because it is a human-made system, it can also be unmade or remade. Breaking the cycle does not require a single revolutionary act. It can begin with a series of deliberate shifts in policy and power that change the incentives and redirect the flow of wealth. These changes can happen at multiple levels: local communities, national governments, and they start with challenging the idea that there is no alternative. A primary area for change is in the rules that govern work and wages. This means restoring the right of workers to organize and bargain collectively. Strengthening unions gives workers a powerful voice to demand their fair share of the wealth they create. Alongside this, governments can implement and enforce stronger labor standards, such as raising the minimum wage to a true living wage, guaranteeing paid sick leave, ending the misclassification of workers as contractors to deny them benefits. These policies directly challenge the wage squeeze. Another crucial pathway involves rethinking the role of the state and public finance. Instead of using public money to bail out failed private banks, governments could invest in a network of public banks dedicated to serving community needs. These banks could finance affordable housing, renewable energy projects, local small businesses, creating good jobs without being beholden to shareholder profits. Furthermore, tax policy can be redesigned to be more progressive. Higher taxes on extreme wealth, higher taxes on corporate profits, higher taxes on financial transactions could generate the revenue needed to fund robust public services like universal healthcare, education, reducing household debt and insecurity. Finally, we must address the fundamental issue of money creation and debt. This could involve exploring alternative monetary systems, such as sovereign money. State creates money directly for public spending rather than relying on private bank debt. It also means implementing stronger regulations on the financial sector to curb reckless speculation and prevent future crises. Fairer bankruptcy laws, including the ability to discharge student debt, would provide a vital release valve for those trapped in a cycle of debt. These are not simple fixes, but they represent concrete policy levers that can shift the balance of power away from finance and back toward the real economy. We stand at a crossroads. We have mapped the system. We have seen how the creation of money as debt, the constant pressure of inflation, and the deliberate suppression of wages combine to create a treadmill that is difficult to get off. We have seen how corporate power shapes the rules to its own benefit, and how governments are often complicit in this process. The entire structure is designed to keep a majority of people in a state of perpetual work and anxiety, ensuring a steady flow of wealth to a small minority at the top. The feeling of being overworked and under-rewarded is not a personal failure. It is a systemic outcome. The first path is one of acceptance. We can continue to believe that this is the only way an economy can work. We can internalize the pressure, work harder, take on more debt, and hope that we are one of the lucky few who gets ahead. This path leads to more of the same: rising inequality,